Hey everybody, Gabby here. So I'm trying something new today. I know I'm always trying something new, it seems like right now for YouTube, but I am going to try commentating over a video that one of my community members, TheGoldenCosmos, sent me from their run in the Players' Cup. This is, I believe, Players' Cup round two, based off of the name of the file. And he's playing against someone named Hydraa. So I'm really excited to see this play out. It's a bit of a long video, so I hope you stay with me. I'm hoping to kind of just watch and talk through my thoughts and whatnot. It's the first time I'm trying commentating something like this, so please let me know what you think down below. And if you have any battles that you want me to try commentating over like this, let me know. You can reach out to me on Twitter or on Discord. The only thing I'd ask is that you're okay with me uploading it to this channel like this, and I will give whatever credit that you want me to give to it. So hopefully this goes well. We're going to do a little bit of editing and post for this one. So that's always an exciting thing for me, I feel. I'm like slowly getting better at my video editing skills, but here we are in team preview, and Golden Cosmos is actually running a team that I'm very familiar with from my Discord. It has the GG core, which is that Venusaur, Torkoal, Tyranitar, and Dusclops combination, alongside Hatteran and Liepard, aka Hat Cat, is what we've been calling it. Um, I think it's a pretty balanced team. Hatteran Liepard is a great way to get Trick Room set up. You also have Trick Room support for the Torkoal via the Dusclops. Venusaur's Chlorophyll with Gmax, which does a ton of damage, boosted by Life Orb. And Tyranitar is the good old weakness policy variant, which, depending on what kind of team your opponent is running, can benefit from Trick Room or from, just not being in Trick Room. Looking at Hydra's team, it's pretty standard as well for what I would have expected going into the Players' Cup. They have a nice combination of Excadrill, Tyranitar, Togekiss, and the Rillaboom. I think that's a pretty solid core right now in the metagame. With Arcanine and Toxtricity as text, I've been seeing a lot more Toxtricity recently. It gets access to poison typing, and it's just pretty powerful overall. So I think it's a really good Pokemon to bring if you can support it. And I think Togekiss is sort of integral to that support, since you can follow me to redirect stuff. And then you have Rillaboom and really the Excadrill to a certain extent to redirect the ground type moves away from it that you don't like. Now, Cosmos is going with a pretty standard lead here for the GG core. The Venusaur and the Dusclops together really allows him to pick how he wants to play through this turn. If Cosmos wants to go Trick Room, he just can, protect the Venusaur, or otherwise maybe Sleep Powder or something away. And then go for a Trick Room with the Dusclops. He can also, forego the Dusclops entirely and just switch in the Torkoal to get the Chlorophyll boost. It's pretty standard, I think, with this setup. Looking at his opponent's Pokemon, though, the Arcanine and the Tyranitar, I'm loving the German nicknames. Or, well, the German names. They're not nicknames. That's a pretty flexible lead as well. I would expect the Arcanine to try and fire off like a fire type attack into that Venusaur spot, and the Tyranitar maybe could potentially Dynamax here. I feel like it's a bit early for that. I would be tempted though, since a Max Darkness into that Dusclops would be super tempting, and then you could also potentially proc the weakness policy off of an attack from the Venusaur. But I think switching it out is probably the safer play long term. But it's interesting that, oh no, this is Cosmos. I was like, I wasn't expecting the Arcanine to Dynamax, but no, with the Gmax Venusaur on this team, Dynamaxing early is honestly okay. A lot of this team is set up around this idea that with the, what is it, Gmax Vine Crash, I believe, doing the residual damage every turn, having Sand doing residual damage every turn, you really punish your opponent by just setting things up as, to just slowly chip away, and then you rely on Torkoal to come in and pick up those KOs. But it looks like Max Ooze into the Arcanine potentially. No. This is probably to boost up Venusaur's special attack for the next turn, so that way the Vine Crash does more damage, which I think is okay. It would have been interesting if the Max Ooze would have targeted that Togekiss switch, but Judging by targeting the Arcanine with that, I almost wonder if Cosmos was thinking that the Togekiss would come in for the other slot. So, Ally Switch, though, is a great play, and as you can see here, Cosmos is setting himself up to take advantage of the Chlorophyll this coming turn by switching in Torkoal, and then I think I saw Vine Crash clicked, but I wasn't paying attention at that point. As for his opponent, Togekiss on the field right here is in a very safe spot, barring the Max Ooze, which I don't actually know if a +1 Max Ooze from a Venusaur would KO. I'm assuming it would. But I think that if I were Cosmos, I'd be more concerned about the Arcanine, especially knowing that I was switching in the Torkoal. So um, the opponent keeping the Togekiss safe makes sense for now. I think the Arcanine has to sort of deal with the Venusaur given this board position. So yeah, I don't know. It's hard to actually commentate like this because I feel like I need someone to give me time to think, if that makes sense. Um, Interesting that the Arcanine is prioritizing Snarl over a fire type attack. I think that, oh, huh. Interesting. So we did see Max Ooze target the Togekiss, which became a Excadrill, which is a Steel type, and therefore doesn't do any damage. But yeah, since this is the last turn of Dynamax, and given the fact that, this team really does want the max Vine Crash, not Lash, damage. Or maybe it was Lash or Crash, I don't know. You really have to go for that attack this turn, and I like how Cosmos is targeting the Arcanine. You're still guaranteed the speed advantage unless the Tyranitar switches in for the Excadrill, which, I don't know. I don't really see that happening this turn from his opponent. I think that his opponent, again, is just in a fine position to take advantage of the sun and start whittling down the damage on the Venusaur. We know two of Cosmos's Pokemon. We know that, the Dusclops and the Torkoal are present. That usually indicates something like a late game Trick Room, or at least a preference for a late game Trick Room. So, and with the sun, Arcanine isn't exactly forced to go for a Dynamax for bigger damage. So by Dynamaxing the Excadrill here, Hydraa can go ahead and focus on getting his own defenses up, so that when Trick Room potentially does become an option, because as far as I can tell, he doesn't have anything that could really shut down Trick Room that we've seen yet. Then he'll be able to withstand the 5 turns a lot longer. I mean, maybe if it's like a flinch Togekiss or something, but you don't want that to be your Trick Room strategy. That's just a no. So Max Quake into the previously Torkoal to boost special defense and to also fish for a KO. Pretty good switch there on Cosmos's part, but again, this Dusclops is slowly taking damage, and every time it takes damage, it sort of, loses its ability to potentially get Trick Room up a little bit safer. Now, to Venusaur's benefit, the Dynamax is over, and it does have access to Sleep Powder, and now would be an amazing time given the priority of, or not the priority, the speed that this Venusaur is carrying to try and go for something like that. However, we just saw Cosmos click in Trick Room, and looking at the health he has left on the Dusclops and looking at the fact that Venusaur would be able to pick up an easy knockout onto this Arcanine, that means that this Excadrill can only attack one Pokemon, and the Max Quake from an Excadrill is usually going to be one of its most powerful attacks, and it didn't do more than 50% damage to that Dusclops, or, well, it didn't even target the Dusclops this time. So even though the Excadrill is going to get a second special defense boost, the fact that Cosmos is able to get Trick Room up here and is now able to send in the Torkoal, I think is going to be pretty big. Hydraa has a couple of options here to adjust. One, you could send in your Tyranitar and guarantee that the sun isn't there, which is really important at the cost of your own speed under Trick Room with that Excadrill, assuming it's Sand Rush, most are. Or you can send in the Togekiss and then send in the T-Tar later, so that if the Torkoal does make an appearance, you can easily switch it in and get rid of that sunlight. Given the fact that he went for the Tyranitar over the Togekiss, I think that was probably the smarter play. You know, our opponent didn't know that Cosmos's last Pokemon was Tyranitar until this previous turn, or well, until just now. So I think that all makes a lot of sense. Now, this is a really tricky spot for both Cosmos and Hydraa because what Cosmos is thinking right now is that if he bulldozes, he'll activate his own weakness policy and also activate the weakness policy of his opponent. Now, we don't know what item his opponent has. We haven't seen anything about this Tyranitar, so if you take the weakness policy boost and you know that you can, you know, survive or underspeed, then you're in a really great spot. But, you know, Hydraa had a option available to him that Cosmos didn't have, which is sending in that Togekiss to one, not take bulldoze damage potentially, two, resist any fighting type attacks. You know, we saw that the Tyranitar on Cosmos's team was running superpower. I find that usually if you're running superpower on Tyranitar, you're like guaranteeing a knockout no matter what. So it really becomes a matter of speed. And now that, you know, that information was denied to Cosmos, we don't know how these two Tyranitar match up speed-wise. And, you know, Hydraa does have the option to send in his Tyranitar if and when the Torkoal makes an appearance. You know, that's a pretty darn good spot. So what do you do if you're Cosmos here? I think you go for Bulldoze Rock Slide and hope for the best. Alternatively, you could try an attack into that into the Excadrill, but I don't think you're going to get it. You know, Togekiss is at pretty decent health, and in this situation, it doesn't have anything it can really do to change the board state. The best thing it can do is protect the Excadrill via a Follow Me. So by going for a Rock Slide, you essentially guarantee the KO onto the Togekiss, and you deal some damage to the Excadrill so that your Torkoal can come in, easily pick up that KO, and then hopefully figure out a way you can deal with the Tyranitar in the back. By proccing the weakness policy now, you also don't have to worry about proccing your opponent's weakness policy, unless there's a switch, which we didn't see. For Hydraa, what I would consider doing here is probably a simple Iron Head onto one of these two Pokemon. If he was predicting a ally switch, it would target the Dusclops, otherwise you target the Tyranitar. I like how we didn't see the Follow Me, and oh, well, there's the weakness policy. Oh, that's interesting. I've been seeing more Excadrill running weakness policy, actually. I think it's a really neat adaptation for this exact situation, because now that Iron Head that I was just talking about will definitely KO either of these two Pokemon, except for the fact that it flinched, which is definitely something in Cosmos's favor. And there's something else important to call out here too. Dusclops has essentially done its duty with that weakness policy proc. There's nothing else it can do at this point to really help the board position for Cosmos. There are 2 turns of Trick Room left. If there were maybe 1 more turn of Trick Room, you might want to try and protect it, but it doesn't have enough health to reset. So you're really just dealing with this win con of, okay, I need to set up Torkoal so that it can win without Trick Room present necessarily. Because both these Pokemon will have access to Protect, presumably, and yeah, there's only 1 turn of Trick Room left. So looking at the board state, looking at how this is going to play out, you know, you just have to assume that Torkoal is going to be outsped by both of these Pokemon. So I like how the fighting type attack is targeting the Tyranitar. It is unfortunate that the Nightshade missed out on the KO. Well, actually, it's unfortunate for both these things that they missed out on the KO, but the Focus Sash reveal on the opposing Tyranitar is amazing information for Game 2. Because now Cosmos will very easily be able to play around that with the presence of the Vine Lash on his team. So just, you know, we're getting information here. This is a game 1 of 3, presumably, given how long this video is. So even though it looks like we're going to see a double protect into like a high horsepower Rock Slide KO onto this Torkoal, looking at the past couple of turns, looking at how everything played out, it really was the surprise Focus Sash that ended the game. The weakness policy on the Excadrill, I think, it did make a difference, but at the same time, I don't think it made that much of a difference. The other big thing that could be revealed here is if these Pokemon lack Protect, the game is over, but it looks like someone clicked in a forfeit. Hydraa clicked in a forfeit? Okay, maybe he doesn't want to reveal Protect. That's really interesting. Either that or he didn't count Trick Room turns, which would be a shame, but oh, that's so weird. That is, oh, that is interesting. I think if I were in Hydra's shoes, I probably would have gone for it. I feel like the big information reveal was already there with the Focus Sash and the weakness policy on Excadrill, and I just don't really see a situation where you don't run Protect on those Pokemon. That's really weird. Always check the Trick Room counter. Always check the Trick Room counter, especially in high-stake games like these. But that being said, game 2, I like that Cosmos is planning on going with the same 4 Pokemon. I don't think you bring Liepard, Hatterene to this matchup. I think that you need something a little bit more flexible in terms of speeds, and Hatterene Liepard, it's good, but it's just, I don't know. I don't really know how to describe it. Let me try. You're really banking on getting Trick Room up if you decide to bring those 2 Pokemon. And I think that given what we've seen, given the Excadrill and the Tyranitar, given how the item distribution is set up on those 2 Pokemon, I think you need the ability to have G-Max Venusaur. And the thing that makes Liepard Hatterene so special is that you really need to G-Max the Hatterene, Max Guard, and then Copycat for Trick Room. Like, that's just how the team plays. As for Hydraa, if I were thinking of adjustments in his shoes for this game, I might try and lead Togekiss Excadrill, as strange as that seems. I know that Togekiss is pretty threatened by the Venusaur in terms of max ooze, but that would give the Excadrill a great opportunity to set up. We know it has weakness policy. We know that it probably wants to proc that weakness policy boost in addition to getting defense buffs. And the longer that you wait to reveal the Excadrill, the longer you have to worry about, Trick Room being up like we saw in that game 1. So, interesting adjustment. I think leading the T-Tar here is totally fair. I just know that Cosmos does have the option to switch in the Torkoal at any moment if he wants to, and go. Honestly, I'm surprised he's thinking about using Max Ooze here. I think I would go Vine Lash, like, right away, but maybe that's just me. I guess, I'm like trying to think of what Cosmos is thinking right now. Getting the +1 special attack is really important long term, but knowing that the Tyranitar is Focus Sash, and knowing that the Excadrill is most likely going to Dynamax here too, if you start chipping away at that health early, it does have an advantage. But I guess, okay, you know what? I think Cosmos might be relying on the fact that he ally switched in this exact situation in game 1, and is hoping that his opponent will remember that and then call it as a result. So I like the Excadrill Dynamax early. Again, this Excadrill is most likely going to go for a Max Quake into one of these 2 Pokemon. If he called the lack of ally switch, I think I would still target the Dusclops over the Venusaur, just because we saw how damaging that Trick Room was in game 1 for Hydraa. But we also know that he has access to Iron Head. Presumably there's one other move in there. It could be something for this situation, but if I had to guess, it's probably just a Rock Slide. So, like, Crunch and Max Quake would be amazing here if he calls the target on the Dusclops, which it looks like he called half of it. That should put him in a decent KO range in the future. So one thing I did forget to mention earlier is that Cosmos might be trying to set up a situation where he can... Oh, that's interesting. Huh. Okay, Assurance. I wasn't expecting Assurance. I was expecting like a Crunch or a Lash Out, but okay. That gets the KO that he needed. I was gonna say, he might be trying to set up for a situation where the Max Quake, or alternatively the Earth Power post Dynamax, would be able to pick up the KO onto this Excadrill without proccing the weakness policy, which you would need to boost your special attack to get around the special defense boost that we're seeing this Excadrill stack up. But now that Torkoal has been revealed, I don't know. I feel like this is pretty easy now for Hydra to clean up. If the Tyranitar switches in that Cosmos has revealed in the previous game and that we, as essentially watching from Cosmos's perspective, know is there, then it will take a ton of damage from the Max Quake anyways, and I don't know if it'll KO. I don't think it will, but I always say that with Tyranitar calcs, and it just never is right. Oh, this is tricky. I think you have to. I mean, okay. I don't know how this Torkoal is trained, and we do have the benefit of knowing that this Excadrill has not had its attack boosted yet. But the Vine Crash, no, the Vine Crash won't. The Vine Crash will do neutral damage on the Excadrill, and then the residual damage might actually be enough to pick up the KO, depending on how much this does. So then it would really come down to what happens the next turn. I like how his opponent switched out the Tyranitar, though. I think getting control back for the weather is really important in this matchup. Like, so, so important. So making sure you have that option available to you long term is really good. And especially hypothetically, if this Max Quake were to KO here, I mean, it's not. But still, it's, oh man, it's like, this is crazy close. This is crazy close. I like it though. I like this matchup. I feel like these two trainers are like really well matched. So, okay. There is the Vine Lash into the Excadrill. That'll guarantee the KO. One thing that Hydra could do here that I would be considering doing is to switch in the Tyranitar at this point to get your speed advantage back. Your opponent really does have to respect the threat of this Excadrill to the point where I agree with targeting it. Excuse me. And we also have the benefit of knowing that we still have a Tyranitar in the back as well. So given that, Excadrill really is the Pokemon to beat here. So Torkoal, yeah, I think Excadrill, oh, okay. So Excadrill can target either of these two Pokemon pretty safely. I think if I were my opponent, I would be prioritizing getting damage down onto the Torkoal, just because hypothetically, if there was a switch here, then and I could KO on the switch, then that would be sort of a win con for me. I would lock the weather to sand, and that would be game over for my opponent. So you also get the benefit of the special defense boost on the Tyranitar, which is going to be huge for the rest of this game because, you know, this Venusaur is really a key Pokemon. Knowing that the Excadrill will have the speed advantage barring... Okay, well, that's a KO, I guess. Knowing that the opposing Tyranitar will have a speed advantage... No, actually, hold on. Like I said, this is actually surprisingly hard to like manage all the stuff I want to say. There's probably a better way to do this. Okay, win cons. Let's talk win cons. So we have a Tyranitar and Togekiss and a Venusaur. As Cosmos, oh, there's still an Arcanine left as well. Okay, yeah, okay. That makes things a lot simpler. So the Intimidate obviously is a huge help for this opposing Tyranitar. That means that superpower is not likely to KO. I don't even think it would be likely to proc the Focus Sash, but oh, the Focus Sash is gone. Okay, so that's a little bit of a roll. If Cosmos protects this turn, it's probably still guaranteed a KO, but we know from the Trick Room in the previous game that this opposing Tyranitar is going to be faster than Cosmos's Pokemon. Really, he has to answer the threat of the Arcanine, because Arcanine can just Flare Blitz into this Venusaur pretty safely and pick up that KO. Tyranitar is only going to be able to win this if he somehow gets it down to, like, I guess Togekiss versus Tyranitar, and even then it does a lot of, well, what's the special defense on this Tyranitar? Can it take a Dazzle? But yeah, Arcanine was pretty free to go for that KO, and I really like the burn up as opposed to the Flare Blitz. For those of you who aren't familiar with burn up, it's a lot more powerful than Flare Blitz. You don't take recoil damage, but more importantly, you actually get rid of your fire typing. So right now, Arcanine is, I believe, just nothing type because it was a fire type and now it just has nothing. So because of that, it won't be taking super effective damage from any rock slides or any other attacks it would normally take super effective damage from. And in return, it won't have access to the same type attack bonus towards fire type attacks, which, given that you don't really want to use those attacks right now anyways, that is a fine trade, I think, for Hydraa. And an important thing to note is that burn up does last for the entirety of a game. So even though we saw Arcanine leave the field, it's not going to magically regain its fire typing. That's just not how it works. So pretty safe here for Hydraa to go for, Dazzling Gleam, go for a superpower, low kick. I don't think we saw, no, I think we saw superpower last game. I'm pretty sure we saw superpower. So really good adjustments from Hydraa throughout this game too. To kind of recap at a high level while we wrap this game up, he saw how much Trick Room was detrimental to him, even though it kind of wasn't if he counted his Trick Room turns, unless he's not running Protect, which is still sort of anyone's guess, I guess. He was able to KO the Dusclops very easily with the combination of a Assurance and a Max Quake, and as a result, he was able to win. It was just very sort of good positioning, consistent switching. I don't really feel like anybody made like any really big reads in this game. It was just that Hydraa had the momentum on his side from the beginning, and because of that, he was able to just kind of consistently play slow through it. And with teams like this, where you have Togekiss, Tyranitar, Excadrill, and Arcanine against another team that basically has all those things, slow and consistent play is really the best thing you can do. Learning how to switch, learning how to, identify your win conditions, what Pokemon you should prioritize in terms of keeping alive is very important. All right, so after that little interruption, let's get ready for game 3. Now, the one thing I always like to talk about and think about when going into game 3, especially in such a high stakes situation, is to reflect back on what the two trainers did in games 1 and 2, what worked, what didn't work, and how you can make adjustments to sort of play to your winning points. Look at your winning strategy and be like, okay, I got this. It looks like Cosmos is switching up the music for us too. Thanks, friend. Um, I like that. You gotta win, you gotta have that winning attitude in order to do well. But let's talk this matchup. So game 1, we saw Cosmos go for Trick Room. It ended up winning him the game, even though I'm pretty sure his opponent could have won if he had just had Protect, which I don't think we've actually seen revealed at all on Excadrill or T-Tar yet. So important thing to highlight. Game 2, we saw Hydraa shut down Trick Room, and as a result, he was able to position himself very consistently and then go on to win the game. So for game 3, that leads me to believe that Hydra's best strategy is to continue to bring the stuff that allowed him to shut down Trick Room, so that Excadrill and that Tyranitar combination, and essentially try and repeat what happened with Game 2. Because if you think back to Game 1, those two Pokemon served him very well. He wasn't at a significant disadvantage, and he's shown that he feels very comfortable making those kind of defensive switches he needs to make in order for the Tyranitar and the Excadrill to really succeed. For Cosmos's case, we saw him click in that Liepard, which is an interesting adjustment, but if you look at what Liepard gives the team access to, it gives them access to Fake Out. I believe it has Fake Tears, and I think Fake Tears is probably what Cosmos is looking for in order to, set himself up for victory. By being able to drop the special defense of either two Pokemon on the opposing side of the field, that makes some of those knockouts that Venusaur was searching for in games 1 and 2 a lot easier for that Venusaur to capture. So it's a different position, and when looking at the Pokemon he brought to this game, it seems like the Pokemon that he left behind was the Tyranitar. for the Liepard, since he brought the Dusclops in the back so that he would have Trick Room support for the Torkoal. While that seems like a very risky switch up, given how this Tyranitar can be integral in this matchup, you gotta look at games 1 and 2 and realize that because the Tyranitar was slower than the opposing Tyranitar and was guaranteed to be knocked out by a fighting move, suddenly that Tyranitar just isn't as useful anymore. So I like the adjustment. I like that we're seeing the Liepard go for the fake out onto the Togekiss, which will give this Venusaur an opportunity to target that Tyranitar. We also know that it's safe to target the Tyranitar because it does not have weakness policy. So, you know, I like the switch here by Hydraa. You know, revealing the Arcanine here doesn't really give him a disadvantage in terms of, you know, what Pokemon Cosmos has and Cosmos' board positioning, but it allows him to immediately retaliate against the Venusaur starting this next turn. And it's safety goggles, so it wasn't put to sleep as well. So that is a key piece of information going into this Game 3, and I really love how that was not revealed at all. You know, come to think of it, I don't even remember thinking about what Arcanine's item was in terms of how it was played in the past couple of games. So, you know, really, really strong switch there from Hydraa. And again, puts him in a great position now to target down this Venusaur. Now, fortunately for Venusaur, it does have options, but all of those options basically are sort of centered around the fact that it will have to take an attack from this Arcanine. Togekiss should follow me here. And because we know the Togekiss can safely follow me, we know that the Venusaur has to go for the poison type attack, and we have to get that fake tears in order to ensure the knockout. So if you look at Cosmos' targeting here, he did target the fake tears onto the Arcanine, assuming no follow me. That'll be redirected if we do see the follow me. And I think Maxus probably should be able to pick up the KO without that special defense drop, but getting the special defense drop onto Arcanine now, again, will just mean that next turn it will be knocked out by anything this Venusaur does. Arcanine's only fire move that we've seen so far is the Burn Up. So without that fire typing, it's not going to be able to resist any of the attacks that the Venusaur has. Now, Togekiss revealed Protect, which is very interesting. Not a lot of Togekiss run it. And I think it's a great indication of what kind of Togekiss this is. It's most likely Serene Grace, Follow Me, Protect, Dazzling Gleam, and then a Yawn or something. So even though this Maxus doesn't do that much damage, the fact that the Venusaur is at +1, the Arcanine is at -2, and we saw the Burn Up revealed this turn means that Venusaur is in a perfect spot to honestly go for a Vine Lash into that Arcanine now. We have decent confidence that this Togekiss is not going to be able to pick up the KO. And really, I think the Liepard going for some like shenanigans with another fake tears should be interesting as well. You know, I see that Cosmos did decide to target the Togekiss directly with that attack. I think personally I would still target the Arcanine just because I know, or because I'm thinking, you know, I do that too. Like, I'll assume sometimes if I expect something to follow me, I'll just target it anyways. Don't do that. Don't do that. It's a really bad habit to get into, and I think I actually got into trouble with it. Like last time. Okay, yeah, are we going back? No? Oh, we're getting a switch. Okay. The switch here is smart. You know, there's not too much that this Liepard can do now that the Arcanine is at -2 special defense, but you gotta wonder what the Liepard can bring to it later on in this game other than another fake out. If we get to a situation where Trick Room is not up on the field and it's Liepard and Torkoal next to each other, then that all of a sudden becomes a lot bigger. But anyways, I'm really curious how much damage this Venusaur will be able to do to the Togekiss now. We did see the reveal of Yawn. So again, confirming pretty confidently in my mind that this is the Serene Grace Togekiss. Does look like it'll be in KO range except for the berry from the residual damage from Vine Lash. Excuse me. So, you know, I think the pivot from Cosmos here was to get himself in a position where he can set up Trick Room. The fact that the Venusaur will be going to sleep next turn is not ideal, but it is his last turn of Dynamax. There is sand on the field, and Vine Lash is starting to, you know, take effect. So it's not the end of the world, even though at the same time it's just not really the ideal spot. I think what he's thinking right now is that he'll let his Venusaur go to sleep and try and. I mean, I would go for the Trick Room here personally. I don't think he can stop it. He has to switch in order to stop it, but the best thing, like honestly, the best thing Hydra could do here would be to pick up a KO on the Venusaur. But then that opens the door for Trick Room to just be like that much more scary. So I like the Snarl. It's not doing a lot long term, but it's slowly getting that chip damage down onto the Dusclops, which is the more important thing. Like, even though this is going to be a very passive turn, as we see Togekiss fishing for a flinch as well with that Air Slash, when you're facing a Trick Room team and you don't have the ability to twist the dimensions back to normal or otherwise stop it, getting as much chip damage down onto the Trick Room setter is really the best that you can do, and this Venusaur is not going to be able to do anything this next turn. It'll be asleep. Dusclops is decently injured, so that, really, I think the Excadrill would be a good switch in from Hydra now. Assuming he brought it. I mean, Hydra's been bringing the same 4 Pokemon, so I would make that assumption. If he has the Excadrill, now would be great, because you can go Dynamax defense buff, or Dynamax special defense buff, because the Torkoal's in the back with that Trick Room. And then you're just one defense buff ahead when it comes to trying to stall your way through this game. And we can only move forward with the assumption that this Excadrill does not have Protect because of what happened in Game 1. So, yeah, I don't know. This is a tricky spot. This is a tricky spot for both these trainers. I think that Hydra still has the upper hand, just because I think Hydra has a few more outs right now that Cosmos just doesn't have. But the game's not over. If Cosmos can find a way. Oh, and he didn't bring Torkoal. I just realized that. I thought he clicked in Torkoal. That's interesting. So he activates the weakness policy now. We don't see the Excadrill Dynamax yet. I think we saw a Sword Stance on the Excadrill earlier on in this game. So this is getting interesting. Because we know that the Excadrill is going to be the slowest thing. We know that this Arcanine can't really deal that much damage based off what we've seen it do so far. But he procced the opposing weakness policy. If this Excadrill gets the KO on Dusclops right now, I think that Cosmos still has a shot, because that'll give him Fake Out access plus this Tyranitar going into the next turn. But if he targets the T-Tar, then it's over. Okay, yeah, so he targeted the Dusclops. So again, that just works in Cosmos' favor, as weird as it's going to sound. Unfortunately for Cosmos, his opponent has a way to avoid getting flinched from Fake Out via Dynamax still, and I still think this Excadrill is in an amazing spot to, activate that Dynamax, but oh, what a tough spot. What a tough spot to be in. I know I was biasing my commentary towards the Torkoal, and it just wasn't there. So Tyranitar targeting the Excadrill is good, because that is a concession that is the Pokemon that is most likely to Dynamax. Following that, you would expect the Fake Out into the Arcanine, unless you don't think that the Arcanine is going to do much. So this is interesting. Oh, I like this. Okay. So Lash Out is a new move, and it doubles its base power whenever your stats have been lowered in a given turn. The only way that Cosmos can ensure that his Tyranitar's stats are lowered is to go for a fake Tears Prankster into his own Tyranitar, but Tyranitar is Dark type, so Prankster's, I don't think Prankster's gonna work. I actually don't know, because, okay, I mean, I would assume that if we don't see the stat lowered, then Lash Out's still going to be base 75, but if this works, he max guarded anyways. Oh, that was so clutch though. I really like the thinking, and yeah, okay, I guess it works. Oh, that is crazy. That would have been so clutch. I mean, he can still do it again this turn, and it's not like his opponent really has any special attackers at this point, so your special defense stat is kind of inconsequential, but wow. Oh, that's super interesting. That is super interesting. Um, I don't even know if that would be enough to KO this Excadrill though in its Dynamax form. Um, so he's the opposing Tyranitar's Focus Sash is broken, so you can attack into that safely and get that KO. But then Excadrill is free to attack either of these two Pokemon, and then you're in just this really nasty spot where you're like waiting for Venusaur to wake up, and I don't think you can play to that. So, I mean, you have to play to that to a certain extent no matter what, but that is a tough, tough decision to make. Like, I think I respect switching in the Venusaur here because I feel like it will get more done by bringing back another Fake Out in the future, but wow, that is a tough spot to be in. I mean, unless this opposing Tyranitar like went for a Rock Slide or something, but if I were a Hydra, I think I would recognize the fact that the Tyranitar on the opposing side of the field is the biggest threat to your win. So yeah, you go for the KO there. And then if then Venusaur has well, it was only asleep on the field for like one turn, so Venusaur will have an opportunity to wake up, but I don't think it's gonna be enough time. Oh, that's hard. That's a hard decision because either the Excadrill or the Tyranitar could have picked up that KO, and all Hydra needed to do to ensure his win was target that Tyranitar on Cosmos' side of the field. So, oh, that's so tough. But then you gotta wonder like what this matchup would have looked like if he brought the Torkoal instead of the Tyranitar. Like I think it would have been easier in some aspects, but not in others. And now we're just in this really interesting spot. I think, I mean, the Venusaur has to wake up, but even if it doesn't, I think it might have like one more turn of sand damage if for some reason this Tyranitar doesn't target the Venusaur. But again, the Venusaur was the win condition, so you respect the target. And I like Cosmo tried to play to his out there. You know, that sleep powder just was hard, but I mean, Trick Room's over. But all this Liepard knows is, well, okay, actually, Copycat or Snarl, but you have to Snarl here. Yeah, that was tough. That was a tough game. That was good though. That was very well played by both Cosmos and Hydra. You know, I think that this like sort of Trick Room matchup, when you bring your own Trick Room, but you don't really have a lot of Trick Room sweepers, can be. Actually, no, that's a lie. That's a lie. He was consistently slower than his opponent, no matter what. So, like, I think, like, I like the Liepard adjustment, but I feel like having both the Dusclops and the Liepard just meant that you weren't really dealing damage on your team. Like, you just didn't have the damage potential to pull a win. And if you would have brought the Torkoal, then, you know, you could have corruptioned your way to a couple of knockouts, especially after the burn up from the Arcanine, when Arcanine would no longer resist those fire attacks. But wow, really well played. Thank you, Cosmos, so much for sending me this VOD to commentate through. I hope you guys enjoyed this content. I know it's a little bit different and it's a little bit longer. And quite frankly, it's kind of hard to just solo commentate these kind of things. I think I was biasing way more on the analysis than the play-by-play, so I hope that was something interesting. But if you like this video, if you want to see more like them, of course, you know, praise the YouTube algorithm, like, comment, subscribe. Again, if you have any VODs, doesn't have to be a best of 3. It can be a best of 1. It can be, I was going to say a best of 2, but that doesn't make sense. Just like from you playing on the Battle Stadium ladder, or maybe in a tournament that you participated in online, whatever, please let me know. I would love to kind of commentate and just talk through my thoughts while watching them. And if you have some thoughts you'd like to share about what you think Hydra or Cosmos could have done differently, please keep them constructive, but feel free to talk about it down below. I think that there is a lot of opportunity when watching VODs like this to sort of analyze and practice. If I were in this situation, what would I do, kind of thing. So, and that's a really big part when it comes to learning how Pokemon strategy works. So that's it for me today. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Make sure to follow me on here, on Twitter, on Twitch. I should be streaming Tuesday nights, definitely Thursday nights, usually Friday nights sometimes. And I would love to see you there. So until next time, I'll see you later.